Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Columbia Association Board of Directors for tonight, May 29th, 2025. Before we dive into our agenda, I do have a couple of housekeeping notes that I'd like to share. One of the reasons I was interested in serving as chair is because I believe this board can and should do a better job of upholding civility, following our policies, and practicing the norms that help a board function effectively. So I don't say that as a criticism of any one person, but as a recognition that we all share responsibility for the tone and integrity of this space. So as chair, I'll do my best to uphold our policy and norms, including our board operations policy and Robert's Rules of Orders. But I also want to be clear, accountability goes both ways. So if there's ever a time where I'm falling short or could be doing better, I hope you'll feel empowered to hold me accountable, just as I'll do the same in this role. So I want to set some expectations up front. First, regarding debate. In recent meetings, we've sometimes drifted into back and forth conversations between individual board members. That kind of dialogue is often more productive in one-on-one conversations, over coffee, in a separate meeting, or even by phone. Board meetings, however, are not the place for that kind of exchange. So moving forward, I'll be enforcing more structure during debate. Each board member will be allowed to speak up to 2 times per motion, as stated in the CA Board operating procedures. If a board member has already spoken once, I'll prioritize recognizing those who haven't yet spoken so we can hear a diversity of perspectives. If a board member has spoken twice, you won't be recognized again on that item. Second, on civility and good faith dialogue, if I observe what I believe to be a pattern of bad faith engagement or uncivil behavior during a meeting, I will name it. If it happens again in the same meeting, I'll take a straw poll of the board to see if others observe the same. If a majority agrees, I will rule that the individual in question forfeits their speaking privileges for the remainder of that meeting. This approach isn't about silencing anyone, it's about protecting the integrity of our work and creating a space where staff, board members, and the public feel safe, respected, and heard. Ultimately, I want our meetings to be more productive. That means respectful dialogue, clear decision-making, adhering to our approved civility policy, and moving away from name-calling, antagonism, or behavior that distracts from our mission. So that's the standard I plan to uphold, and I hope you'll join me in doing the same. And with that said, those are the procedures being used to conduct tonight's meeting, and unless otherwise shared, moving forward for the fiscal year. I will now call the roll to determine the directors in attendance. Sky.
Yeah, here.
Thank you. Reg.
Here.
Karen.
Here.
Wes.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
Eric. Delilah.
Here.
Bill.
Here.
Ashley.
Here.
And I am here. Excellent. Okay. Sean's here. As a reminder to everyone joining us in person, that audio and video of tonight's meeting are being broadcast live to YouTube and will be available for review later this evening. Anyone using the links to the meeting on CA's website will be able to see and hear the proceedings. If everyone could please silence noise-making devices, and folks at the table, please remember to turn off your mics unless speaking, and then, oh, sorry, I got that messed up. Turn your mics off if you're not speaking, turn them on if you are. New to this. So moving on to 1D, Mike is going to be our timekeeper for this evening. Moving on to item 2, the announcement of closed special meetings to be held. There was a closed session meeting on May 8th, 2025 of the Board of Directors. All directors were in favor. First by Bill, second by Ashley. The reason to close... We will have to double check on the reason to close because this was my first. I think that this was, I'm not going to, I don't remember. It was May 8th. I think it was
consultation with legal counsel.
Consultation with legal counsel. Okay. So it was.
That was the retreat.
Yes, that was during the retreat. Thank you. So this was 11B-101, section 3, consultation with legal counsel on legal matters. Great, and yes, okay. The next one was on May 17th. 7 members were present, including Sky, Karen, Delilah, Mike, Eric, Sean, Bill, and myself. All of those present voted for closing the meeting. That commenced at 2:40 p.m. for 11B-101, a consultation with legal counsel on legal matters, and consultation with staff, personnel, consultants, attorneys, board members, or other persons in connections with pending or potential litigation or other legal matters. The closed meeting ended at 3:10 p.m. There was another closed session of the Board of Directors on May 29th at 6:30 p.m. 8 members voted in favor to close, 2 against. Those 2 were, I just have this on a separate tab here, apologies, Karen and Eric. That closed meeting began at 6:30 p.m. for 11B-101, discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, and that meeting concluded at 6:55 p.m. Okay. So that are the announcements of our closed and special meetings. We will now move to item 3, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mike moves. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sky? Is there discussion?
Yeah.
Great.
I can, yes. Ashley?
Awesome. I can't tell if you can see my hand up.
I cannot.
Yeah, I wanted to add discussion of the ethics policy as a new business item for 10 minutes, so 9D.
Okay, so 9D to add ethics policy discussion for 10 minutes. That is made by Ashley. Is there a second for that amendment?
I second it.
For Sky? All right, so we are on the amendment to create item 9D to add
I'll
the
accept that as a
ethics.
friendly amendment.
Say it again?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment to my motion.
Okay, did you make a motion?
Yeah, I motion to approve.
So
the
for
agenda.
the-
Oh, yeah. Oh, as a friendly amendment to the agenda. Okay, very good.
Can I ask,
Yes.
why do we need to discuss the ethics policy?
I couldn't hear.
Ashley, why do we need to discuss the ethics policy was asked by Karen. Do you want to respond, Ashley?
I mean, we'll get into it more, but it's already been a couple of years, and there's some thoughts that I have on it, so we can talk about it more for 10 minutes on the agenda.
Karen?
I get it, but this meeting's not going to end till 10 o'clock tonight, and so this is going to add another 10 minutes to it, so I don't understand why Ashley couldn't just add this during a Board Operations Committee meeting.
Great. So we're already in the process of reviewing our various policies and discussing what our policy review will be. Regarding the ethics policy, I was hoping to provide more. I mean, there's a few things that I'm hoping that the staff can help with, because obviously it's not up to board members to write policy, but there's some things that should be resolved, I would hope. So for instance, right now, there's not really anything to deter board members from receiving ethics violations. There's no punishment or penalty for us when we accumulate multiple ethics violations. There's a handful of issues that I think our ethics policy being updated could address. Also, it's really more of like a living document that, as we continue to age as an organization and have new board members, we should consider updating that policy regularly.
Okay. Ashley, I do want to acknowledge that I can't see super well, but if we could raise hands so that I can make sure that people get called on so that we keep track of that, but thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion for the agenda, which has a friendly amendment to add 9D for 10 minutes for the ethics policy? Okay. Is there any opposition to the agenda as presented and with the friendly amendments? Hearing no opposition, the agenda passes by unanimous consent. We will now move on to the next item, which is the Columbia update. Sean?
All right, thank you. So I have Danica Rhines here and Chris Clem, and they're going to give the board an update on the kickoff of our Lakefront Live series this summer. Very exciting things going on. So I wanted them to let the board know and let the public know.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Chair Sullivan, Vice Chair Glebersuch, and the rest of the board. To anybody who I haven't met, I'm Danica Rhines. I'm the communications manager here at Columbia Association.
Hi, I'm Chris Clem. I'm the open space manager.
There is a lot going on, so please forgive us in that regard. So Sean asked us to come today. Not with us today is Robin Stimson, who is our community engagement manager. She's also had an credible amount of work into this programming this summer. So I just want to acknowledge that she had a family obligation. But just a quick update. Hopefully this will not take the whole 10 minutes. I know you all are very busy, but just wanted to make sure you all were aware of so far the great reception that we have had to Lakefront Live programming, particularly the summer kickoff that's happening on Saturday. So first and foremost, would love to see you all out there. The rain does look like it will hold off. We have more than 2,700 RSVPs, and we actually cut that off for crowd control purposes. So that is a really good sign to us that there is a ton of interest in engaging in that space. And of course, with the summer coming up, we only expect that to grow. And the inaugural beer garden, which I know Sean is very excited about, and I'm sure many of you are as well. Bill is giving a thumbs up over here. Just want that on the record. We have about 700 folks interested in that as well. And then looking ahead, in a couple of weeks, we'll have our first teen DJ night. We're calling it the Summer Kickback. And we're already looking at 380 RSVPs there. And that's without reaching out with some intention to some of our partners in the teen and middle and high school space. So we feel really good about that as well. In terms of, I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of kind of the time and investment on the marketing piece and how many people that has reached. So our marketing team has been, as we usually do, has been putting some money behind social media advertising. We've seen over 9,000 people go to lakefrontlive.org, which is really promising as well for the rest of the season, and have seen some really good return on investment in that regard. So again, just indicating to us that people are interested. And I think a lot of you know Sam Kasura, very tall gentleman that would roam through these parks on a regular basis.
Come out whenever you're ready. I'm coming. And then we're going to go to Dorsey's Village Center.
Hey, Larry, I'm so sorry. Do you mind muting, please? Oh, thank you. Well, anyway, he was recently given a megaphone to yell at people at the lakefront regarding Lakefront Live, and that got a great amount of attention, went like mini viral for us. So that was very exciting as well. So in summary, really great reception. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer that. We have our first movie and Dancing Under the People Tree coming up next Friday, so not tomorrow, but the following Friday. The day after that's our first Family Fun morning, so we'll see how that's received as well. Then we have Juneteenth coming up soon after that, Lake Fest, 4th of July, and then the inaugural Pride in July event, which we are very excited about. So again, Chris, anything to add on that front? That's pretty much the progress report.
All right, and I might add, so, Chris and Danica and Robin have been before you to talk about diversifying the program at the programming at the lakefront and around Columbia. This is a great start, and I think you see some of these new initiatives, the block party and the summer kickback, are already very well received, and people are excited to attend them. So, we look forward to many more, but they have really done a tremendous job putting these programs together, and it is way more work than you can imagine. And not only way more work, but the partnerships, the teamwork, the collaboration. So I commend them. They've done a great job. So I'm really looking forward to the start this weekend.
Awesome. Ditto. Thank you very much for everything that you all do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we will now move on to Resident Speak Out. Resident Speak Out is an important opportunity for community members to provide informed, constructive feedback on the issues the board is considering. It works best when we use this time to share ideas, raise concerns, and contribute to the conversations in ways that help us govern more effectively together. To ensure this time remains productive, I will be placing greater emphasis on upholding our Code of Business Conduct and civility policies. Personal attacks, defamatory remarks, and abusive or discriminatory language, whether directed at staff, board members, or others, will not be tolerated. Examples include calling individuals dishonest or incompetent, airing personal grievances, or framing policy disagreements as moral failings. If these expectations are violated, the speaker will be asked to stop, forfeit their remaining time, and may be restricted from speaking at future meetings. Board members or staff may follow up with speakers after the meeting to ask questions or seek clarification. So to support this, we encourage all speakers to submit a written copy of their remarks through the Contact the Board web form on CA's website. Thank you to all of our speakers for helping us maintain a space for respectful, civic-minded dialogue. And with that said, our first speaker tonight is Larry Scowen for a group, I believe, in-person, virtual? Virtual.
I'm virtual. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for receiving me. Last time I spoke with you on behalf of the Friends of IMAC group, that met in April. But until our meeting next week, I have to say tonight, I'm speaking for myself only. So I have good news. Good news and not so good news. The good news is Eliana Slotnick, the staff person for multicultural, called a meeting of our committee May 21st. There was great attendance. There was a lot of information, a lot of energy around the multicultural activities. We have a new chair and a vice chair of the committee who've already shown leadership and energy. This is all great progress. Very happy that it happened. We wish it hadn't taken 2 years to convene a meeting of this committee. The sad part is that the dismantling of the international part of the program has continued. Just this month, the month of May, the 2024, the charter that was previously written in 2024 was revised by staff unilaterally, dropping any mention of sister cities and anything international. Equally sadly, while we recognize the president CEO has the sole discretion to do this, it's right there in the charter. This was done without any consultation with the committee, which was the custom in the past. I personally was involved in revisions of the charter in the past. Customs are important and the words are important. So the deletion of anything sister cities or international is significant. Now more than ever is the time to strengthen international relations, citizen to citizen friendship and diplomacy. I and other members of our Friends of the Sister Cities group are struggling with what to do next. So I'm interested in any suggestions or questions from the board. And one thought is, would a one-page description for you of sister city benefits and responsibilities be helpful to you? That's all I have this evening. And I'm open to questions.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. If you can just make sure that you submit a written copy to the board form, that would be appreciated. Okay.
I will do that.
Very good. Thank you. Sharon Boyes, for a group, if you have questions, I stated that you're going to follow up after, because he's going to submit through the board portal. You can submit questions back to Larry in that space. Yep. The next speaker is Sharon Boyes for a group, Protect Our Streams. This says virtual, but I thought I saw Sharon.
I'm right here.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Somebody helped me with this last time and it ended up on the floor. It's kind of embarrassing. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. All righty. Good evening, neighbors, board members, and Mr. McGinnis. My name is Sharon Boyce, and I'm representing Protect Our Streams this evening. Thank you for your time and dedication to our community. The results of the Natural Resources Survey confirmed that residents love our mature forested stream corridors. They are some of the things that matter most. We've been saying for years that the best way to protect or restore our streams is to mitigate the runoff before it reaches the storm drains and creeks. Otherwise, you're just putting a destructive, expensive patch on a situation while allowing the runoff to continue. When we talk about eroding stream banks tonight, the degree that infrastructure is exposed, we're talking about the exact same thing. I want to be very clear that we are not opposed to repairs to infrastructure, but working on an outflow or a small section of stream bank should never be conflated with a large-scale restoration. There are repairs to where we have allowed unmitigated runoff to blast the stream banks away. Every one of these pink dots is a storm drain in the Elkhorn watershed. There are 120 outfalls that feed directly into the Elkhorn stream. I've been asking for CA and Howard County to work together for years, and I can't understand why CA isn't blistering mad at Howard County and the SHA for apparently allowing their polluted runoff to blast out our creeks, and then expect Columbia to understand why a forest has to be chopped down for a stream project that never even addressed the root causes just for obligatory credits. We have raw sewage in our stream. When is enough enough? Mr. McGinnis has talked about the need for transparency, and I agree. So how is it that the transparency policy is up for elimination? Just think about that for a minute. We should never weaken or eliminate policies that would allow for concealment. I move to break this out for further future discussion, which brings me to what on earth is going on with our so-called stream restoration? I'm glad we're finally going to have a discussion because after being told about the success of this project a year ago, the monitoring reports, checklists, design plans, emails, and other correspondence paint quite a different picture, and it's time for a complete and unbiased analysis. I brought the proposed project to your attention last December. I can fact-check that for the fact, but we don't want to hear any more inaccurate results. I provide a list of questions for you to ask, but some of the biggest of all are why. Why, after removing nearly 1,100 mature trees, should we allow anyone to remove hundreds more? Someone has to answer, why has this design apparently failed? And why should we trust the answers that have been provided? Waterways are dynamic. They're living things. Our creek needed a scalpel, not a bulldozer. Our forest was self-sustaining and climate resilient. Our creek was like an aquarium. The project needs a little undoing with a light touch to prevent my neighbor's property from flooding. But where's the second opinion, an independent expert opinion that says they need access to restore, repair over a mile of creeks and 15 acres of forest? Are you kidding me? Ironically, one section of creek that was scraped away will be filled in with substrate that can wash downstream in a large enough rain event. I understand that you broke it, so you buy it thought process, but repairing the creek isn't the same as a settlement or buying it. That's us having blind faith for a second time. The largest concern raised by a board member before the vote on the original project was tree loss. Neither John nor Dennis said they would remove thousands of trees and shrubs, but that happened. They also didn't say they expected to take 30 years to recover as the design plan states, but that's happening. We don't want to breathe in any more diesel fumes. We don't want to hear the noise and the destruction. We don't want any more tree loss or for any wildlife that's already trying its best to hang on to be stressed out. We want a few strong people with a chainsaw, a crowbar, and a light touch. The creek is trying to heal from what we allowed to happen to it. Finally, residents should never fear or face threats or retaliation from parties with vested economic interest in any so-called stream restoration simply for speaking out and standing up about the things we love and the things we want to protect. None of this should have ever happened here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sharon. And can you make sure that you submit tonight's testimony via the portal on CA's website?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
We're going to
not
go
allowed
on
to
to our
ask
next
questions.
speaker, but so make sure that you submit through the board portal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Bob Dovers next, speaking as an individual for in-person.
Thanks, Colin. Good evening, everyone. There are several items on the agenda tonight that touch on CA's watershed management program, but they all have two things in common. They're all temporary fixes, and they all make CA's problems with stormwater runoff worse rather than better. They're all attempting to address the downstream drainage damage, and none of them are addressing the root causes of the problem, which are the uncontrolled storm drains in the upstream areas. With respect to the upcoming project in Longfellow, what's happening is exactly what I told this board would happen on Elkhorn Branch. The project would look nice and stable for a few years, but erosion would eventually attack behind and beneath the engineered structures. The stream banks would begin to erode, leaving CA responsible for maintenance and ongoing repairs forever. Longfellow was completed in 2021, and it already requires substantial reconstruction in 24 locations after only 4 years. This is not a one-off. The scientific literature is full of similar examples. During the presentation tonight, they're going to describe the upcoming project as minor maintenance and improvement issues. But when they discussed it in email, they called it stream bank failure repairs. Ask them why they changed their terminology. Also, they're going to say tonight that the repairs they're going to do are going to be permanent, but these are the same people who did the original project in 2020. With respect to the erosion threats to sewage pipes, There was discussion of the break in Elkhorn Branch at the Long Reach meeting last week. I visited the site right after the break and confirmed that it's directly at the end of an uncontrolled storm sewer outfall. The storm drain concentrates all of the rain falling onto a large townhouse property into a 2-foot pipe and then shoots it like a water cannon directly at the sewer line. No wonder it broke. The county told us that the situation's going to be fixed with a stream restoration in the main channel, but failed to mention that the cause was not the main channel. It was the fire hose effect of the uncontrolled outfall. Not only are these downstream efforts costly, destructive, and temporary, but they also actually make the stormwater problem worse. By cutting down mature trees, you're actually increasing both the volume and velocity of runoff, which is already too high. I know it's costly and difficult to address the main cause of the problem in the upstream areas, but unless this is done, everything done in the floodplain and stream is a waste of money and a lot of damage in residential areas for no benefit. Just because Plan A is expensive and difficult doesn't mean that Plan B is a good idea. Thank you very much. I'll be submitting comments through the portal.
Thank you, Bob. Next, we have Richard Bannister as an individual. Oh, online?
Yeah. Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hi. Good. Good evening. My name is Richard Bannister. I'm a longtime Columbia Association fee-paying resident and have lived in Long Reach for over 40 years. I also administrate the Facebook group Protect Our Streams Columbia, but tonight I'm speaking on my own behalf. Seeing that there is going to be more efforts with the so-called stream restoration in the Longfellow Woods and in Harper's Choice begun in 2020, it is worth noting that a considerable amount of time and expense has been spent on this project that was not recommended in the 2009 Columbia Watershed Plan and was not asked for by residents, and yet was suggested and implemented by staff, with the board granting an easement on woefully insufficient information. How much time and money has been spent on this boondoggle that has resulted in no benefit to the residents of Columbia? Is the board not concerned that so much has already been wasted? None of us here will be around to see 100-year-old trees in that section of Columbia again, or the accompanying wildlife. None of us will benefit from the increase in invasive plants. None of us will benefit from the deoxygenated water flowing in the now sun-exposed stream during the summer, killing off whatever aquatic life that has come from upstream. And none of us will benefit from the now warmer water flowing into Wild Lake and Kinnamukundy, exacerbating dangerous algae blooms. Much time and expense has been spent on this project in the past, now in the present, and most likely in the foreseeable future. Who's paying for this? Is the State Highway Administration and the contractor they hired compensating CA for staff time and energy? Either way, we, the payer of CA fees, and we, the payer of Maryland taxes, have paid for this ongoing failure. I, for one, would like some accountability. Not one of the 10 largest so-called stream restorations done in Columbia over the past 10 years has any sign of returning to its original natural wooded state. Most likely, not one. Now we're going to see stream restoration. Most likely in a few years, we'll be seeing a stream restoration. However, looking on the bright side, there is one benefit to this self-inflicted mess that I can see. The great thing about Columbia Association making this unasked for foray into unnecessary stream re-engineering projects is they can become an example to the world of how upland wooded stream restorations simply do not work, and are indeed detrimental to the environment and should never have been and should never again be attempted. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And can you make sure that you also submit your comments to the portal?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes Resident Speak Out for tonight. We will go on to our guest presentations. Sean?
Yes, I'll have Jeremy introduce the next 3 items as they fall under his department.
So I'm very excited about the next session, the educational portion of our board meeting. I realized coming in this evening that there would likely be the largest number of engineers and or scientists in this room than probably in the history of the existence of this space. I think there's 10 in this room at the moment right now. So if there's a stormwater problem or a sanitary sewer problem that happens right now in this room, we're set. We got the solution right behind us. So the first presentation will be on some sanitary sewer stabilization work in the Little Patuxent River. Jay and Ibrahim from Howard County will be here to present on that right now. They are the first lineup. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us a chance to present this our project in front of the board. I am Sanjay Kulkarni, and my colleague here is Ibrahim Sabit, and we both are project managers in the Utility Design Division of Public Work Department's Bureau of Engineering. This presentation is about sewer and stream stabilization, and the word to note here is stabilization and not restoration. This project consists of 4 sewer crossings, which we will be working on. And the next slide actually shows the outline of our presentation. Generally, we will start from why this happens, why we have to do this, and then we will go to the project summary where Ibrahim will summarize what are we doing in this particular project. So we have a program for fixing or remediation of exposed sewer. Why do we need this program? Typically, a sewer will carry gravity flows from top to bottom because it is advantageous to carry the sewer that way to the low points instead of pumping. In fact, Howard County won't allow pumping of the sewer unless it is an extreme case where the topography really doesn't allow it. And in that case also, we will need a waiver request from the person who wants to install it. Since both sewers, and you can imagine even the streams, are at the bottom of the valley, they are bound to cross at points as the pipe network goes on increasing. And we have to find a way to carry the sewage across the stream, and most of the time it is under the stream. So when a sewer is installed, there is plenty of cover, everything is well and good, things go on. But in county, says part of the areas, the sewer systems are like 50 to 60 years old. So those are the areas which are prone for more erosion, and many of those exposed pipes are caused by the erosion. Over the time, the erosion causes the flow, causes the soil on the top to erode, and the pipe becomes exposed. And how do we find those? We have a group of county employees who are looking for the exposed sewer. At the same time, they are looking at the progression of any already found exposed sewers so that a remedial action can be taken. Many times the residents, they will call us, and when they are walking on the pathways, they will tell us, wow, you guys should come and take a look at this. This is an exposed sewer here. And sometimes when the larger pond restoration or stream restoration projects are undertaken, they discover the exposed pipes. So, but the sheer number of these crossings, it's so much that it is impossible to repair or take a remedial action as soon as they are discovered. So the county will go ahead and categorize them as almost fatal, or you can wait and see and give us some time. And that's how we go. And based on the degree of exposure, we take the actions. For most dire cases, they are addressed by an emergency basis. You know, we just take the work underway, get the contractor on board, and we'll finish the job. For others, we will wait, we'll keep monitoring them, and as monitoring how well they are stable or they are really deteriorating more and more, so sometime the time for action will come.
Okay.
These three are the typical examples of sewage failure. On the first photo, you can see an exposed pipe, which was well under the bank of the river. But over the years, the bank was eroded, the pipe became exposed. And at the time this photo was taken, this pipe was not stable. Its support had eroded and it was in a danger of collapsing within the river. So that's the time we went into action and we put the remedial measure. In most cases, these were the stones, which is the prevalent practice right now. Put the stones, covered them, and that's how that project was done. The second project is what I would call dire. I just explained. The pipe is actually broken, if you see. And we never want to see this, because that's when the sewage spilled into the raw water. Nobody's fault. It just the concrete encasement on the pipe kind of weighed heavily, the support eroded, and the pipe finally snapped. So this was reported to us by a resident walking on the pathway nearby. And we immediately took action. We diverted the flow, isolated that pipe, and actually we replaced the whole pipe inside a steel casing. And it's off Whetstone Road. If anybody is interested, that project still stands there. The third one is interesting in that it is the inside of a pipe. Why inside of a pipe? Because when the pipe is underground, we don't know the condition of the joints. There is an uneven erosion under the pipe support, and by that, the joints can get little dislocated, and then that may lead to the pipe failure ahead of us. So we do the CCTV of the pipe we suspect is not stable. And if we find the relocation, the joints are dislocated, we will just go ahead and replace the pipe. We don't take any other chances with that. So these are three typical examples, I would say, which highlight our work. And next one. Coming to this particular project. This particular project is along Little Patuxent River and some of the side streams. And it started with 7 sites where we found the exposed pipe. And over the time, the dots in red, they became so vulnerable that we repaired them under emergency procedures. So under this project, we are going to remedy the remaining 4 sites, 1, 3, 4, and 6. Some of at sites 1 and 4, the pipe is damaged, just as we saw in the CCTV. So we will be replacing the pipe. Sometimes the stream bed erosion. This is basically, we are interested in what happens to the sewer. I mean, it's not that we don't care, but we mostly protect our sewer and not the stream bank as such, like 100 feet here and 100 feet there. We won't do that. We protect our sewer for the future safety of everybody. And then we will do stream bank erosion, we will do stabilize it in the vicinity so that at least it won't affect our sewer. So that's the goal of this project. You want to take it?
Thank you, Jade, for describing the background of the project. So under this project, our goal is to protect the residents, that any Howard County government projects, and protect the environment. We'll replace and protect sewer pipe as necessary. We'll replace the damaged sewer pipe casing as necessary, and we'll stabilize the stream bank and bed, as Jay mentioned, that is particular to the sewer stabilization. So we have 4 locations. If I draw your attention to location 1. The blue arrows are the Little Production River flow direction, and the green line are the sewer that at location 1 is crossing the stream. So we're replacing the pipe, replacing the casing, as well as stabilizing the stream bed and bank at location 1. At location 3, the pipe is exposed on the bank of the river, so we'll only stabilize the bank of Little Production River at that location. Location 4 will replace the pipe and casing, as well as to stabilize the stream bed and bank. Location 6 are only to stabilize the stream bed and bank above the pipe. Our target is to start work at 4 locations simultaneously based on materials and labor availability. This way we can conclude the work in a shorter period. For all of this work, we'll try, based on the contractor availability under separate contract, these are still under discussion, and we'll look into more into this. For this 4 location, we'll have 2 access points through our already established sewer easement. For location 1, 3, and 4, we'll have the stabilized construction entrance. You'll see SC on the plan, and the access path through Ferndale Avenue. And for location 6, we'll access the site through Allview Drive. So to summarize the project, we have this location 1, 3, 4, and 6 marked as green on the map. That is under the scope of this project. At location 1 and 4, we'll replace the sewer pipe and casing, as well as to stabilize the stream bed and bank. For location 3, we'll only stabilize the stream bank that is necessary at this moment. And for location 6, we'll stabilize the stream bed and bank. Regards to the scheduling, our target is to wait for the stream closure period, that's June 1st, then go to the construction mobilization at the end of June. That is again based on availability of materials and the contractor. We'll notify about the project to the residents through our standard procedure. And the previous project experience, we can tell we'll finish the work within 2 months of starting.
At each site? At each site?
At each site, yes, at each site. Thank you, Jay. And also if weather permits for this frequent rains, that it disrupts the work. And then for if any existing easement update is needed, based on the field condition, will come to the Columbia Station at the end of the construction. For now, the plan is to use the existing sewer easement and carry out the work. And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you have any question, we'll be available.
Absolutely, thank you. Karen?
Yeah, I have a quick question. It looked like the majority of the work is going to take place in Allview. How is that going to impact, on this map? It looks like the majority of the work is in Allview. However, it does look like there could be some impacts along Broken Land Parkway. So how will that impact the residents in Columbia on the other side of Broken Land Parkway?
We really don't expect that much impact, but it just happens to be divided that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just ask a follow-up and then I'll let it go back. Are any of these easements CA easements, or is it all?
No, they are all county's easements for the sewer, yeah.
This is all CA-owned property, though. They're county easements on CA-owned property that happens to be behind Allview.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That explains what. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Mike?
I really appreciate this presentation. I've been seeing that construction along Broken Land for a long time, and I get a ton of questions about it, so I'll be able to kind of explain it, so I really appreciate that. I do have a question that when an exposed pipe like this is identified, is there any root cause analysis to say, like, hey, was there a proximate cause for why this erosion occurred here, and maybe there's a way to mitigate it, or is it just never that simple?
We do look at it. Mostly it's the location of the pipe Many times there is a storm drain that drains just upstream of it, increasing the flow and the velocity, and that impacts the soil around the pipe. And sometimes there is a weak spot in the support somewhere, or developed over the years. So these are mostly the reasons that the experience tells us. These are what it is. So the engineers will look at the location of the pipe. If it is on the curve, naturally there is a more velocity around the curve. So the reasons could be different, but it seems like the solutions are not many.
Bill?
Hey, thank you for coming out tonight. Piggybacking on Mike's comment, I was wondering, have you guys put any flow gauges or flow meters in the stream to determine when you get these peak rain volumes, what the actual forces on the pipes are? And are you sure that your hardening is going to be adequate for that?
That is really kind of out of scope. We mostly focus on just the sewer. And I don't know the expense of putting the gauges at upstream of all the exposures. Exposed sewer, I'm not sure of that. But so far, no, we have not done that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jeremy?
Okay, so that was part one of three riveting presentations on sanitary sewer maintenance. So joining me next is, let's see.
Got to keep them straight.
I got a whole list of people here. We have Dennis and Thomas who will be giving a presentation on sanitary sewer repair that's going to have to take place near Lake Kit starting later this year and this summer. I'll let them do a formal introduction of themselves if I will butcher it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We have a presentation.
Yes.
Okay. No problem. Yes, my name is Dennis Lopez. I work for the Bureau of Engineering in Howard County. And today we have a brief presentation about rehabilitation of a 12 inches sewer pipe. As part of the presentation, we will be talking about, we introduce the team, identify the project location, we'll give you an overview, what to know, some important facts about the project, and we'll share some information as project duration and what you can expect during construction. And then at the end, the questions and answers. As I mentioned, my name is Dennis Lopez. I'm the project manager for this project and also program manager for the sewer effort in Howard County. Next to me is Thomas Dano, who is a project manager, is our consultant. And with us also is Anna Makanish, who is a senior environmental scientist, is part of the team. Project location, okay, this is located next to, between the lake, Kiramakwandi, I hope my pronunciation is correct, and next to Route 29 as well, okay. The label in the center, if you go back, is showing the location. So this pipe crosses under, below 29 and also below the Little Patuxent River, right? We have a sewer interceptor that runs from north to south of the lake, and that is a 42 inches sewer interceptor. So these 12 inches connect to this 42 inches pipe. It's worth to mention that we have issue with this location, right? It's also worth to mention that it's in most cases caused by grease, and we're trying to improve the hydraulic performance of this pipe. So it's only a section of pipe. So we're doing a rehabilitation to improve the hydraulic performance and hoping, to avoid this issue. Just a fact to share, also in the last 18 months, we have done 3 interventions. Go there, need to clean, put people sometimes in the middle of the night to prevent contamination to the environment, right? But this is not sustainable. That's what we do in the rehabilitation. The site access, if you see the access to the site will be for the south part of the lake. And will be, the schedule is in coordination with the Columbia Association dredging project that is planned for fall this year. So that way we're trying to minimize the impact in the area. Next. This image shows you what we're planning to do. If you can see, we have the existing 12 inches pipe connecting to the 42. And then we kind of simplify the alignment connecting to the 42. This is a plan view where we can see the crossing in the stream. So basically that will be the work area. The lake is in the left side. We have, and then crossing the river. Howard County coordinates with local and state agencies, including Columbia Association, neighborhood groups, to minimize the impact to the community. But it's important to mention also we are regulated by the state level and federal level too, and federal level as well. So we are, as we are presenting right now, we working closely since last year about this project. We started the coordination, formal coordination for design back in October. And as I mentioned, the goal is to improve the sewer alignment and alleviate sanitary sewer overflows. They show you a profile of what will be the crossing, the new crossing. If you can see, we are replacing the pipe for, right now is a ACP pipe. We're replacing for a ductile iron pipe. It's a stronger pipe. And also we are installing a steel casing not only to protect the pipe, but also to protect the stream as well. And we are installing a new manhole on top of the existing sewer that we have. And some of the existing pipes and manhole will be abandoned in place. They're very closed. And the stream bank will be restored and stabilized as part of this work as well. Project duration, as I mentioned, we're planning to begin in September. Like I said, we're working together with Columbia Association to work with the other project, the dredging project, and use the same entrance in the area. The construction for the sewer, we estimate about 2 months, right, weather permitting, but that's typically what it takes. We will install a temporary bridge, will be constructed for the site access. So from the south entrance Main Street to the lake, we will be used the access that will be done for the dredging operation. But where the existing bridge, pedestrian bridge at the south of the lake is, we will be building parallel, a new bridge, just temporary bridge, just to make sure we cross the equipment without affecting any existing infrastructure, right, in the stream as well. As I mentioned, temporary partial closure of trail for project, that is basically in coordination with the other project. And that is the plan that we have. Next slide. Yeah. So what can you expect during construction? Work hours, typically 6:30 a.m. to 5. Typically, that may vary, but typically it's from 6:30 to 3:30, right? That's typically during construction activity. We will have the contractor, crew, and equipment there. We'll be performing some test pits, survey crews. We will have the visit for MDE or any other federal agencies as well. And we will continue providing reliable water and sewer service during construction, so that's not going to be affected, right? It's worth mentioning as well about the sewer. One of the major effort and cost too is to provide bypass flow. So during the construction, we don't expect any overflows in the area as well. Thank you. That is the presentation. I don't know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Mike?
Sure.
Yeah, a question about the temporary closure. Does that mean it's temporary as in for the extent of the construction, it's going to be closed and then it'll reopen at the end? Or temporary as in during work hours, it'll be closed to the public, but after work hours, people will still be able to get through that trail?
No, it's my understanding that that will be closed as part of the, Jeremy, you can explain
Yeah,
that.
I can answer that. So it's for the extent of the project. We're going to have to harden that space, put mulch down for heavy truck traffic, so that path will be closed for multiple projects.
Thank you.
Karen?
How many trees are you guys going to have to take out for this project?
In regards to the trees, I don't have specific inventory right now, but what I can tell you is, as part of the practice, we have approximate?
It's 12 trees.
12 trees?
Right.
Within an existing sewer easement.
Correct.
Sky?
Will we be getting a copy of the slides?
Jeremy?
Yeah, we have the slides.
Okay. Wes?
Can you pull back up the closure? That doesn't impact the crossing from the over 29 and access to the lake that way, right?
No.
Okay, great.
It goes under it.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
All right, Jeremy.
Oh, man. I got this.
It's just a show.
A friend of mine called in one of those overflows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm out in my
All right. So we're going to detour from sanitary sewer discussions to adaptive management of the Longfellow SHA Stream Restoration Project. And so Doug, Matt, and Ryan will be providing that presentation for us, and I'll allow them to do introductions of themselves.
All right. Hi, everyone. So like Jeremy mentioned, we're going to be talking about the adaptive management here for the unnamed trip to Little Patuxent.
Hey, Doug, you want to do quick intros, just so we know, well, I mean, of who you each of you are?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, let's start with some quick introductions. My name's Doug Mace. I'm a project manager with Ecotone. On my left, I have Matt Drennan, who is our design team lead. And on my right, I have Ryan Cole with State Highway Administration. He's the chief of the Water Programs Division. We'll walk through just some of the objectives that we want to go over today. So we have a brief photo presentation of some existing conditions. We'll walk through the post-construction performance, and then walk through the monitoring that was performed last year, and then move on to the planned adaptive management. So here are some existing conditions of the stream. Judging by these photos, you can see that the stream banks are pretty highly incised. There's a lot of sediment load from bank erosion and an overall just poor floodplain connection. Post-construction, we'll walk through each tributary. So tributary 1, we restored about 3,200 feet of stream. With that, 0.4 acres of wetlands were created, and 0.16 acres of oxbow wetlands were created. Tributary 2, about 1,300 feet of stream was restored. 0.11 acres of wetlands were created. And tributary 3, about 1,800 feet of stream was restored. 0.31 acres of wetlands was created. Moving on to monitoring. So monitoring was completed October 16th of last year. That assessment included photo documentation, structural stability assessment, a habitat assessment using the rapid bioassessment protocol, and a woody vegetation survey, and identified any necessary corrective measures based on that. So here are the monitoring results. I hope everyone can see this. It's pretty small here. I'll just kind of run through each tributary based on what we were observing last year. So tributary 1, out of the total 41 structures, we had 11 structures functioning at risk. Stormwater outfall 1, there are 8 structures. Out of those 8 structures, 1 is functioning at risk. Tributary 2, out of the 27 structures, 1 is functioning at risk and 1 is non-functioning. Tributary 3, all these structures are functioning. There are 6 structures there. And then stormwater outfall 2, there are 10 structures. 2 structures are functioning at risk and 1 is non-functioning. So those are some of the functioning at risk and non-functioning structures. Those are the structures that we are attempting to repair here with the adaptive management. With the rapid bioassessment protocol, you can see here, based on the pre-construction and post-construction, the percent increase in the health of the stream was increased across all tributaries. So overall, the stream is functioning really well. And then also with the monitoring in the fall of 2024, we did a woody vegetation survey, and we resulted in an average of 449 trees per acre. We did a supplemental planting in the fall of 23, and that included a total of 733 trees across all of the tributaries. And with that, we'll talk through some of the adaptive management that we have planned.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm close enough to it. Thanks. So again, my name is Matt Jordan. I'm the Water Resources Team Lead at Ecotone, and I'll be walking through the proposed adaptive management. To start, I know we just showed a slide. I just wanted to briefly go back for a second to the monitoring results and talk a little bit more specifically about some of the functioning and not functioning or functioning at risk structures. Functioning at risk is more of a subjective rating. It essentially means that there's something that we are looking to monitor. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything structurally incorrect with the structure itself. It just means that it is pinged to be continued monitor. It means there's something that could be a failure of a risk of failure moving forward in the future. In the future. So it's something that we flag for additional monitoring in the following years. So I wanted to touch on that because we won't be addressing all of these structures for the simple reason that we're trying to come in with a scalpel, as I think was previously mentioned, and really focus in on the parts that are structurally unstable and could lead to future instability. So to go back, there are 3 restoration tributaries. Tributary 1 has 2,598 total length of stable stream and only 82 that are needing repair. And that doesn't account for bank stability. Most of these are on one side or the other. So this is actually double counting several of these instabilities. Really, it's about 41 feet of bank stability. Tributary 2 has 1,273 stable stream length and then 77 that need repair. Stormwater outfalls 1 and 2 have 422 and 354 respectively. Tributary 1 does, or the stormwater outfall 1 does need about 26 feet of repair. And then tributary 3 is 1,341 feet of stable stream and 153 of needing repair. We're going to walk a little bit closer. We're going to zoom into each of these restoration reaches here quickly. So we are looking at the top of tributary 1 and the stormwater outfall 1. This is going from, we'll go from left to right. It's a little bit hard to see on these screens, but moving from left to right, our blue markers are showing any areas that we have elected to go in and remove cross-log structures. They're cross-channel logs that were laid across the channel. After review in the last 4 years of monitoring, we decided that these are actually probably producing more scour than what we had expected or anticipated. And the habitat that we expected to receive in these structures doesn't outweigh the possible instability that they may be creating from convergent scour downstream. The orange markers, X markers, are stream features that actually require adaptive management based on review from SHA and the agencies. And then the orange stream lengths are the areas that we are actually engaging in a length of stream restoration. So moving from left of the screen to the right of the screen, so upstream to downstream, there is a cross-channel log that is right to the right of the 195 that we're proposing to remove. There's the orange X right next to that, which is a log vein that is about 4 inches higher than we had proposed. That could be due to buoyancy of the logs. It could also be due to construction variance in the proposed positioning. But we're just proposing to notch the log vein. So the left photo shows what the existing conditions are now. The right photo essentially shows what a functioning log vein, and this is actually a log vein directly upstream of this log vein, what a functioning log vein should look like. Thank you. So we're proposing to notch this log vein by about 4 inches. That's just going to be with a chainsaw. It's 2 guys going in with a chainsaw, notching it and moving on. There is a tow wood structure immediately downstream of this on the left bank at Station 203, where we're going to be going in during our landscaping operations. We're doing some supplemental plantings in the area. So we're going to bring a wheelbarrow of topsoil, fill behind the structure where there is some washout of the native material that was placed behind the tow wood. So it's minimally invasive. 2 guys and a wheelbarrow and a shovel. We'll go in there, stabilize, seed, permanently plant, and should be out of there in a matter of hours. Moving downstream from that is tributary 1 in the stormwater outfall. Looking at the series of channel log or cross-channel log removals, the photos on the left and right both show cross-channel logs that are not operating as intended. So we'll be removing those with a chainsaw and rotating them out into the floodplain. They'll be floodplain habitat, but they won't be obstructions for the stream moving forward. Further downstream, there's another log roller that is about 4 inches too high. Again, we're just going to go in with the chainsaw, notch it, and it should only take a matter of a few hours. This is looking at the most upstream riffle and a cross-channel log in stormwater outfall 1 at station 75. We're proposing to remove the cross-channel log, and then again, handwork only, going in with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. We'll be moving some of the riffle material that's been washed down from the conversion scour at the cross-channel log back to the proposed location, and then stabilizing the banks, permanently seeding, placing topsoil, and wrapping with a coconut core fiber matting, which is a biodegradable material. The photo on the right is what we're proposing that this should look like. This is a riffle immediately downstream of that structure. All right, this is the second half of tributary 1. This is towards Hesperus Drive at the downstream end. Again, you can see there are a series of blue X's. All of these are just cross-channel logs that we'll be moving in, cutting with a chainsaw and rotating out of the flow. At the downstream end at Hesperus Drive, there is a bank failure on the right bank, where we had some bank scour upstream of the outfall, or upstream of the culvert running under Hesperus Drive. And last year, or I guess 2 years ago, we did an emergency repair with these coconut core logs and some live stakes. And this was not meant to be a long-term stability structure. So we're going in to do a long-term fix for this location. It's just going to consist of soil encapsulated soil lifts, like what we're showing on the right photo here. This was a photo of a picture, or a photo of a structure that we built about 2 weeks ago at a site not too far from here. Downstream of Hesperus Drive, there is a decent amount of sediment that's been deposited from quite a few things. Most of it doesn't appear to be actually from the banks in the channel, as most of the banks are stable. There is that scour that we talked about immediately upstream of Hesperus, which could be contributing to this, but as Jeremy had alluded to a few times in our discussions, there are also several water main breaks along this tributary and upstream of our tributary where sediment has been washing out towards the channel. So this is typically what happens downstream of outfalls when you have a large influx of wash load. So we're going to go in and scrape out this material and replace back to the proposed stream elevation. We're also going to take a look at one of the culverts. Right now, it's mostly choked in with this same sediment material. We're going to go in and scrape it out and try to stabilize that in order to increase the capacity for that culvert. And then at the very downstream end, there is a log sill, or I'm sorry, there is a riffle that is migrating, the material at the downstream end is migrating slightly downstream. We're proposing to add a log sill in order to increase vertical grade control at station 2690. The log sill is going to look something similar to the photo on the right, which is pretty low profile. You can barely make it out, but it is a log structure in the center of that riffle grade control there. And it's hard to see, and that's by intention. It is meant to be pretty low profile. Tributary 2 is at Elliott's Oak Road, moving down towards Faulkner Ridge Circle, so moving from upstream to downstream, left to right on the screen here. There are only 2 restoration locations or stabilization locations on this reach, both of them which are downstream. There is a left bank erosion at Station 10 that we're going in, and again, with handwork, 2 guys, wheelbarrow and some shovels, some core fiber matting. We're going to stabilize the bank, replace with topsoil, permanently seed, and wrap in the core fiber matting. And then there is some minor erosion at the right bank on the right arm of the log vein at station 1087. Again, we're going in with handwork only and filling that area and wrapping with core fiber matting, similar to what the photo to the right looks like. Tributary 3, as I'm running close on time here, we have 3 log sills on the stormwater outfall 2 that we are either going to be notching or placing some riprap material in order to build up as essentially like a ramp from those. There has been some increased scour in that location. And then at the very downstream end of Tributary 3, at the very downstream end of Tributary 3, we're proposing again to stabilize the left bank downstream of our restoration reach with soil encapsulated soil lifts like you see, or core fiber encapsulated soil lifts like you see on the right photo. This is just a look at the log sills and the stormwater outfall 2.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Doug. I'm Ryan Cole from State Highway Administration. As a reminder, I just want to get out in front and say that adaptive management is a frequent need of any nature-based restoration type project. Working with nature is difficult. We can't control the amount of water coming to projects. We can't control stressors to the plants. Across our project types as well. You know, we're out replanting forests, maintaining our stream restoration projects. Our stormwater management projects also need adaptive management. So this isn't out of the unusual, and this is a phenomenal project that needs a couple areas of attention here, as the guys showed. This is going to further promote stability. It's going to reduce erosion and provide the resiliency that we need this project to have. We collaboratively worked on the approach and the scope of this proposed work. And also, I wanted to mention the Columbia Association, the SHA partnership on this project. We have common goals. There's great opportunity here. Reduction of sediment, nutrients going downstream to the lakes, ultimately to the bay. Both groups want to get this project maintain its success, both from a stability perspective and growth. There's a lot of strength in this collaboration between CA and SHA. You guys are proactive land stewards linked to the community, and SHA is going to continue to monitor this project and provide resources if needs arise. Long term, SHA must inspect this project every 3 years to ensure it's still functioning as designed in order to claim our MS4 credit that comes along with the project. We're going to continue to share this information, and we'll work together in the future if other work is needed here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions? Karen?
Yeah, when you guys talked about scraping out the one area, everywhere else you were like, we're going to be very surgical. We're going to go in. What's going to be the process for scraping out the area with all the sediment buildup?
Sure. So in that area, we will need heavy equipment. It's the only area that we're actually proposing to access with heavy equipment during the adaptive management because of the amount of sediment that's been washed into that area and the fact that we are trying to increase the capacity of that culvert. So it really serves as two purposes. We're trying to get it out for the health of the stream because that fine sediment is going to wash down further into the rest of the watershed, but it also increases the capacity of the culvert underneath of that road. So we will be accessing with heavy equipment in that area.
So is there a plan on file for how you're planning to do that
Yes, we have.
with MDE?
So yes, we have gone through a few iterations with MDE. The most recent plan set, which MDE has provided to the, I think it's provided to the Columbia Association and a few members who have asked for it, is an outdated plan set that we are working with the Columbia Association to provide a plan set that is updated and is more focused on this very highly focused surgical approach. So as soon as we get the thumbs up from Columbia Association, that's our next plan, is to submit to MD for final approval. They have seen the most recent iteration, but.
So to bring heavy equipment into that area, are you guys going to be taking trees down?
No, we are not intentionally removing any trees. And I think that was a big concern about the last iteration of plan set, and that was simply a CAD issue, not necessarily any intention of ours. All of the trees that were shown as removals previously were removals from their last restoration iteration. There are no trees that are being proposed for removal for this adaptive management.
Thank you.
Reg?
So actually, you answered part of my question, but just out of curiosity, the brush and the logs and everything else that you do remove, what happens to that? Just out of curiosity.
Most of the time,
wondered.
if we have locations in the area, we can reuse it in the streams restoration projects closer to that area. Or we will mulch it and use it for our nursery. We have a native nursery, so we'll bring it back to our nursery and mulch it and use it there.
Okay. And you did kind of answer Karen's question, but just again, so I understand. I thought earlier you mentioned a number of trees that would have to be taken down. Was that for another?
Oh, so no, these are cross-channel log structures. They were already cut and placed structures across the channel.
Okay.
So they are not impacts to live trees. We're going to be cutting them and removing them, and we're not even taking them out of the stream system as much as we are rotating them into the floodplain.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jeremy, for getting everyone here tonight.
There endeth the lesson.
Very good. All right. Moving on to item 7, the consent agenda is presented. Is there any need to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? Hearing no objections, the consent agenda passes. We will now go on to old business to talk about the organization and consolidation of board policies discussion. Sean, do you have commentary?
You have a couple of things. So the approval of draft minutes and then the gun violence awareness.
Did I miss something?
No, that was the consent agenda.
That was the consent agenda.
Okay, you're good with that, okay.
We don't have to do anything formal for the gun guidance.
We just did.
There's a resolution in the packet, and the board reviews it. If there's questions, we read it at the event, which is next Friday.
But it was on the consent agenda,
Yeah,
so.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but usually we, on our shirts, we get a picture.
So that is still the case.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
We'll send out a notification on that to the board directly.
Yeah. Okay, so we are on old business, though, 8A, right? Did you have commentary on this, Sean, or
No,
John?
John is here to kind of speak to this.
Yes, I don't know how many times we've talked about policies over the past 2 years, but it's been many. Sorry, we have to get the microphone. But as I indicated, we've spoken many times, and we suggested back on the policy meeting that was in March some potential resolutions, of which you've already approved 2. And there are 3 more in the packet. These were all originally discussed back in March. The one that doesn't directly pertain to particular policies is the one that calls for sunsetting provisions, which is basically an idea to keep policies current. I proposed, and subject to your feelings or discretion, I proposed a 5-year review term, if you want to make that longer, shorter. And the idea is that we'd bring these on a schedule. I mean, ultimately, quite honestly, what I was hoping, and the reason I came up with 5 years is I thought if we could clear out the policies and get them to a number around 50, you divide that by 5, you got 10 a year I could bring up on a schedule, and then you could spread that out over the year. So, you wouldn't be every meeting going over a number of policies. It would make it easier. We could bring up 2, 1, and so we wouldn't spend a lot of time doing it. Now, some of these policies might be very simple, and you decide, hey, it's a great policy, go on, we don't want to change it. Some might be, we want to change it. So it's not necessarily that the policy is going to go out of effect. You could vote to keep it in effect, but we're dealing with things, as you've seen, that go back to 1974. So I think a lot are outdated. So that's the resolution concerning the sunsetting of policies. The other 2 pertain to particular policies, and again, it's one we've talked about previously. One is to rescind obsolete, outdated policies. Since the meetings we've had before, we went through again and taken some of the input. We slightly changed it, pulled 1 or 2 or a few out. The list that you have there represents ones that we think should be rescinded and archived. I think in the database that you have access to, I think there was a suggestion last time to put comments as to the reason why we think that these should be rendered archived, and that's what we did. It's in your, I don't think it was in the packet that was attached to the board agenda, but it was in you have access to it, so that's there. And then finally, the third resolution is, again, something we talked about. For several reasons, there were several policies that we think are more, basically they're operational as opposed to strategic, and in your scope that we think are more akin to staff policies that the staff has, and that's why those were proposed to be transitioned from board policies to staff operational policies. The end result is, if we have these numbers, is hopefully we could get it down to around 50 or so, maybe give or take a few. and it's much more manageable, would make us much easier to do a searchable database. You've already passed a resolution for us to come up with a numbering system and indexing, and frankly, I'm waiting to clear out these first, because it doesn't make much sense to assign numbers and put these in if we're going to archive 50 or 75. I want to get, okay, these are the policies we have, and then we'll work with Armsby and put them on the website, and we'll index them, and we'll have a database that'll just look lovely. And so that's where I'm coming from.
And John, can you just remind me the 2 reading rule versus the 3 reading rule, and which of these, as presented in the packet, that is applicable to? Because I'll just pause there.
The sunset, this would be the 3rd reading on, so as we talked about that at 2 meetings. I mean, I could argue that the rescission, we've talked about 3, but if you want to be on the safe side, the other 2, you can look at them again and discuss what you'd like today, and then we could bring them up one more time. Certainly, they've been discussed, but I'd rather, if everybody feel comfortable rather than that. But certainly the sunset thing, we have discussed specifically at 2 meetings. So the other 2, if you'd like to, talk about it, discuss, and we could bring it up at the next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, Karen?
Just so you guys know, my link that we had a link to all the policies online. My link doesn't work anymore.
Oh, I can answer that. If it's the link, I think you're
Because when
maybe.
I was asking, I was trying to find it the other day. That's why I was asking for the policy on the policy, the board policy we're working with tonight. But I can't find that, and my link doesn't work to find all the policies where John's talking about. He's got them all organized.
If it's the link, I think you might be referencing. Julia reorganized some things on OneDrive. Was it a OneDrive link? Do you remember, or was it?
Yeah, we can send you the.
SharePoint. So
Yeah.
We can send you the link again.
Yeah. So it just got updated. Bill.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, it's red, but it works. I'm a little confused too. I had just a couple of comments on the rescission policies and the list that we have there. Policies 9 through 12 all deal with the ARC, the Architectural Resource Committee. And I just want to make sure that those policies scheduled for rescission, there are superseding policies for the treatment of the ARC that actually continues that function for the villages.
I think most, if not all, are subsumed within the charter that outlines all those things. So we don't need the policies outlined how to do it, the charter put that into effect. Now that we have a charter, we follow that.
That background is immensely helpful. So it's similar with the transparency policy that has a superseding policy.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Last thing I have, and then I'll get out of everyone's hair. There is a policy on here. It is number 18, sales of alcoholic beverages on the Fairway Hills Golf Course. Fairway Hills is fairly close in to the residents of both Dorsey Search and the Running Brook section of Wild Lake. There are at-grade crossings for the golf course. It's not like Hobbit's Glen. I'd like to defer the decision on this particular policy so that both Dorsey Search and Wild Lake Village boards could weigh in on it before we make a decision on that particular policy.
Couple things. We'll go to Dan first.
So I can't remember the exact date, but pre-COVID, that policy was rescinded by the board by them approving the sale of alcohol on the Fairway Hills Golf Course.
Okay, so this one also has been superseded?
Yeah, this has already been taken care of.
All right, but just a quick, was Wild Lake consulted on that when it happened?
There was many residents speak out.
I wanted to make sure. Thank you. Thank you. I remember Tom and Ginger, they're great people. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I know Mike is in the queue, but it would behoove us if we had a motion on the floor, so just putting that out there.
I move to approve both resolutions, both the sunsetting and periodic review and the rescission of obsolete policies.
All right, so Mike has made a motion to approve the sunset and periodic review and obsolete policies as presented in the packet. Is there a second? Ooh, I'll say Ashley. Okay, further discussion. Reg?
So I had stepped out, so I'm sorry. What is the actual motion, please?
Yep, so there are 3 resolutions in the packet, but 2 of them are currently under Mike's motion right now to adopt the rescission of obsolete policies and the sunset provisions and periodic review of policies in the packet. Karen?
Do we need to add something to sunset provisions that ensures that we review the policies? Because right now it just says policies not reviewed. It's basically like, well, they just sunset at 5 years. I think John's intention is that we will review these policies. So I think we probably need to have some language in there that says that the policies get reviewed, you know, they sunset.
I mean, I think it says that the board would set a schedule for the periodic review. That's assumed under number 2.
Yes.
Okay, so number 2. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, like, to defer and say, come to you and give a schedule, I'd be happy to do it unless you want to do your own schedule. But it does say the board shall establish a schedule. Again, my idea was if we have 50, we'll do 10 a year and we'll do it. I mean, look, if you want to, like, if you see a policy and say, well, I don't want to wait until next year and we want to bring it up, that's fine. You know, we could amend, you know, any agenda to bring it up. So however you'd like to do it. But yeah, I think that's assumed within number 2 of that resolution.
Bill?
Just, I would jump in early and say I would rather we approve a schedule generated by staff.
Mike?
I think I've said this before, but this is an incredible amount of work to go through all of these decades of policies. It, like, you know, deep cut history nerd reference, it's like assembling the code of Theodosius, right? This was a really impressive job, and I really appreciate all the work that went into it, and it probably wasn't very fun either.
John loved it. John, tell me loved it.
That's why I'll be very happy when you get rid of this stuff.
If you had Theodosius on your bingo card.
Any other discussion? All right, we will do roll call just because there's people online. Ashley. So the motion on the floor is to approve the first 2 resolutions as they were presented in the packet, to approve the sunset provisions and periodic review of policies, and to approve the rescission of obsolete policies. A yes vote would adopt both of those resolutions. Sorry. Sky.
Yes.
Reg.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Wes?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Eric is absent. Delilah?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. That is 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, and 1 absence. The motion will pass. Okay. We are on to 9A, unless there's other discussion for old business. Okay, FY26 grants distribution discussion. John?
Yes, so this is a quick item, but as the board may recall, part of the FY26 budget was there was $125,000 allocated for grant funding to be determined by the board. And, you know, now whether we're in FY26, I don't know if what the board, just kind of gauging the feel for the board, does the board want the staff or us to present some options for the board? Does the board want to present something else? Does the board want to break up the $125,000? Just give us a little bit of direction and we can come back with some options.
Okay, Sky, did you?
Yeah. I'd like us to consider handing over a large majority of that amount to the community of Howard County, Community Foundation of Howard County. They do a professional job. They know exactly how the various organizations spend their money, and they will require an annual, if not more often, report, so we would know how our funds were used and who used them.
Mike?
I like what was proposed in the packet, just dividing it up into the higher, lower categories in Sky that covers the community foundation in there as well. So I thought that was a good idea.
Sorry.
I'd really like to see our grants go to Columbia-specific charities, because the taxpayers of Howard.
I can't hear her. Oh, can you go green?
Sorry, I thought it was green. I would like our grants to go to Columbia-specific charities. I don't think, when there's so many taxpayers in Howard County, I feel like let the taxpayers in the rest of Howard County subsidize the charities outside of Columbia, and let the Columbia Association take care of the folks within the boundaries of Columbia. So while I do think that the charity that Sky named is a reputable charity and has a long history, I feel like I'd rather know that, that the kids and people that live in Columbia are benefiting from our grants.
Sean, do you have something?
I was going to say, the board can determine how the grants are utilized. So if the grant is given to a Community Foundation of Howard County, the board could stipulate that the funding only goes to Columbia-specific entities.
Sorry, I'm having a conversation with Drew. I can't see if Ashley ever has her hand raised. Sorry.
I can, and she does not.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, cool, thank you. Bill?
Just to follow up on that comment, the Community Foundation of Howard County has had a longstanding relationship with the Columbia Association, and typically written into the agreement with the Community Foundation has always been that funds used by or dispersed by the Community Foundation would be for the benefit of Columbia residents. And in fact, it goes even farther. The typical arrangement was that it had to go to nonprofits working in Columbia to benefit Columbia residents. And then the reporting back would be that the nonprofits that got the money would understand that the money was coming from the Columbia Association. And they would have to communicate that to the recipients, the end of the line folks that they would be working with. So I understand that this is a stated concern, but it has been an established practice with this particular organization that this type of thing would not be an issue.
So I'm hearing two kind of options. We can look and review things as they were presented in the packet, so the 1, 2, and 3, or have staff return with more plans at a future meeting. Is that?
Yeah, in the packet, that's just 3 options. The board does not have to choose. We don't have the funding actually to choose all 3. Number 1 is $100,000 and above, and I think if you split up the other 2, that only leaves $25,000. So what we can do is present some possible options of a lump sum to an organization, or propose some means to split it that we think might be acceptable to the board and beneficial to the community.
Mike?
So I'll admit I misinterpreted what was in there. I read that as anything over $100,000, you were going to require board approval, and that what you were saying is $25,000 and under, as long as it's aligning with the strategic plan, we are granting you authority to dole that out without coming for permission of the board. So I apologize for misreading that.
That's correct. So really what we tried to be flexible with what was proposed in the budget this year was $125,000 for the board to decide how to distribute. And historically, it's been a lump sum to the Community Foundation, or, we put the policy in there in case the board wanted us to present some other options, but it can be one, or we can present some other things.
Reg?
So thank you. I do like the idea that the staff come back with more suggestions, because I really think they might come up with some great ideas for us. I'm not real high on, I've said it before, but I'm not real high on the Community Foundation of Howard County. Not that I just don't know them very well, don't understand exactly what they do, but I really would like to see the money going to some, those entities here in Columbia. So I would like to see with the staff if they have additional ideas.
Sky?
Yeah, this is a policy that was approved by the Board of Directors February 2020. I just wanted to point that out. The Community Foundation used to be known as the Columbia Foundation, and some people still get those two mixed up. They're one organization. And the new director will be seated the 9th or 10th of June. So I'm sure we could put a stipulation on any funds that they be given to Columbia organizations rather than outside Columbia and yet inside the county. And we could certainly ask either the current director or the new director to come and speak for a few minutes on how they operate. I think there is a stipulation in here that one CA staff member is on the committee to select worthy organizations.
Okay, so what I'm hearing are, and again, please correct me, I'm hearing two options again for like a lump sum to the Columbia Foundation with stipulations, or have staff present options to split that we can discuss. Is that fair? Okay, I would like to take a straw poll so that we can definitively give staff that response. So again, option 1 is the lump sum to Columbia Foundation with stipulations. And option 2 will be to present, for staff to present options of how to split that money. Is everyone clear? Okay, so those in favor for option 1, you can raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm raising my hand.
So 6, I'm sorry. Okay, and those in favor of option 2? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Mike?
Maybe that was like the most unmotivated raising of my hand for that first option. I don't care that much. So maybe there's like a middle ground that half of it is to the community foundation and half of it is that come to the board. I don't know.
That's option 2 to me.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hey, I'm sorry. Sky, did you want to go first?
Sure, it's real quick. Having been in the position to hand out donations for numerous years, I prefer that an organization ask for a donation rather than CA or the community foundation go out and pick one that seems to need the money, that seems to be good. And of course, the first year, it'll take a couple of years to get the word out how we operate. I also asked Susan Crabb a couple of months ago for the amount of donations that CA has dispersed over the last 5 or 10 years, and some of the years were like 600,000 or 700,000. So 125 is a good small start.
I want to be mindful of time for this agenda item, but we're going to go to Ashley.
Awesome, thanks. So one of the things, I mean, kind of 2 points. So one, I like the first option mentioned where it's a, well-informed organization that's familiar with the other nonprofits that could potentially receive these grants. The second part is it's the number 3 option on the paper, right? It mentions the applications for grants, right? And I don't believe we've even opened applications for grants for Columbia Association for a while. So I feel like that's delaying and adding to the process. Honestly, I could have gone either way. It's just if we're adding more work for staff and it's not something that is they're as well versed in, and we haven't created the application process.
All right, we are out of time for this agenda item.
I asked Sky to go first, anticipating that I could go after she spoke. So if I might, just really quick. My intent was that, given the options we have here, I would think that if we could perform some sort of 80-20 split, where if we have a pool of money for grants, 80% would go to the community foundation, and 20% will be left for the president's discretion or something like that.
Okay, so I am going to suggest that we redo the straw poll because of conversation that I just heard, because I think what I heard were actually what I would label as the second option. So again, we're going to do the straw poll again, and then we're going to move on. So option 1 is for the lump sum to the Columbia Foundation with stipulations. Option 2 is to ask staff to present options to splits. Whatever that may mean, we're asking staff to present that. Okay. For those in favor of option 1 for the Columbia Foundation, if you would raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ashley, I don't know what Ashley's hand raised on this one? Yeah.
Hand is up.
Okay, that's 5. All right, and for option 2, to have staff present options to splits. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, does that help you?
We'll provide one option, so, okay.
Okay. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is the FY26 board meeting schedule discussion. Do you have any additional commentary?
No, this is the schedule that's proposed for the year. Just wanted the board to review it, and if there's any questions, it can always be modified after the fact, so it's not set in stone, but it's just generally what's proposed annually.
Does anyone have any discussion? Bill?
I did my best to try and go through and double check, but I just want to make sure we're clear that we're not crossing over important religious holidays or anything like that throughout the year, to make sure that we're not, intentionally creating any kind of conflict.
Yes. But we always double check. We'll double check.
Very good.
Are there other? Ashley? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I have too many windows open. I'm trying to pull up my proposed schedule that I had. When I was looking through the required items for our agenda log, it looked like September 11th wasn't one that had any required agenda items. January 22nd or February 12th could have been moved, and Thursday, April 9th or April 23rd didn't seem required based on our agenda items. I feel like I should be emailing this to you guys.
That would be appreciated. Sky?
September 11th is 9/11.
Yeah.
Yep.
I could go on and on.
We got it. Did you have something, Bill?
I did. I want to make sure everybody else had a chance to speak
Thank
before
you.
I spoke a second time.
Other thoughts? Bill?
Just to comment on the September meetings, the Board Operations Committee meeting in late August, just before that, Reg and I sit on that meeting, and we'll do our darn best to fill up the September 11th meeting if we can.
I'm going to hop in the queue and say, I think this might be where we start talking about this, but thinking about kind of going off of a little bit of what Ashley was talking about, if there isn't any business that needs to be done, thinking about alternative conversations or opportunities for engagement that we could be having with the community. And I don't know what that could exactly look like, but if there's interest, again, to have perhaps staff come up with options for what those kind of events would look like, I don't know if the board would be interested in that. Okay, so Sean, can we get some options for what some alternative community conversation, town hall type events look like? Okay. Other thoughts on this agenda item? Okay. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw Delilah raise your hand. I'm just seeing things. All right, we're moving on to 9C, the President CEO evaluation policy. That's included in the packet. I'll start with that. I think, we, the board had a lengthy conversation about the President CEO evaluation policy during the FY25 board. We used it for during our last cycle. And I think that being in leadership, and I'm turning to Bill as being in leadership for FY25, I think that we had some lessons learned from how that policy was utilized. And I think that we have opportunity for improvement. So I think it's worth considering to look at again and to continue having conversation about how we can improve it to make sure that we are doing our due diligence about what evaluating our senior executive looks like. So, Mike.
Yeah, I agree. I think there have been, some lessons learned, and that's always a good thing. I think specifically what I think would be good to look for staff to come back with recommendations is making sure that the evaluation actually reflects the opinion of the majority of board members, because the current process doesn't really do that, to prescribe a process for how the written evaluation is generated, because it doesn't do that, and that led to just some open-endedness that could have been done smoother. Really require that the board provide a mid-year written review and make sure that that's a two-way conversation at the mid-year point. Take out anonymity from the process so that if board members have certain opinions, that they've got to put their name next to that. And then I think the biggest change that I'd like to see is for this year, and I think going back as long as I know, the CEO has been evaluated on discrete annual goals that the board approves each year. And sometimes the board doesn't even approve those until September, right? So a quarter of the way through the year. And that doesn't really make much sense to me, that those annual goals are good for the board to set, to say, hey, what do we want to get done this year? But the CEO has a day job that are not chasing down discrete, hey, pick this thing up. And, I don't want to belittle the annual goals because I think they are important, but there's a lot more to being the CEO of a corporation like this than accomplishing discrete annual tasks. And so I think we really want to invert the way we're rating the CEO and primarily focus on year-over-year things that are never going to change. And I think Sean's self-evaluation last year really laid a good framework for that, of saying what those year-over-year eval categories should be, and then have a single category that says, and how are you doing on collectively each of the tasks. So that's what I think would be a good idea to ask staff to help us with.
Karen?
Yeah, so I think one of the mistakes that the board made last year was the CEO should be tied to the strategic plan. A typical CEO has a strategic plan, and that is what they are always working against, and that's what they're measured against. Whether that includes profitability, membership, whatever it is, there's certain things that a board will set for a CEO saying, these are the things that we want to achieve. And I don't think that the board did that last year. I think that we allowed for those discrete, we all voted on that stuff. We voted on the different things that we wanted the CEO to do. So the strategic plan with that framework that we have, which Sean put together a good strategic plan, allows for the agility of the board for changing scenarios. So from year to year, as things are happening, this is where, the building in of resiliency is, okay, are we confronted with climate emergency? Something came up. Do we have a pandemic that we have to adjust for? Those types of things. So the strategic plan, I just personally don't think we did a very good job with it last year. So I think the framework is good, but the board can do a better job of setting the goals. They shouldn't be just discrete goals, but I do think in some terms, some of the high level goals, like putting together a natural resources management plan, that's a huge goal. That's a huge goal that feeds into our strategic plan. So that's an excellent goal. But how are we going to measure that? How do we measure whether we've been successful or not? And that's what we haven't been doing. Every time we bring up that we need measuring, we need to be able to see what are the things that we want. If we want to increase membership, we want to see, if only 30% of the residents are members, what is the number that we do want to see? What's an acceptable number to us? Is it 35%? We can say, we want to see the membership increase to 35%, and then it's up for Sean and the senior leadership team to determine how they get to that 35%, or to come back to us and say, we don't think that's possible, but here's what we think we can do.
Bill?
Just a little table setting here. I will own a large part of this in that I was chair last year, and I would not list the evaluation, carrying out the evaluation procedure in my top 10 accomplishments, although I did try to do my best, and I don't think anybody's going to say, no, Bill, you did okay. I think there's some agreement on that. Having said that, to actually have to take control and administer that policy, I believe that it's not only good leadership is needed in order to have an effective CEO evaluation, good policy is required too. And I think that there are some key things that need to be improved in the current policy in order that to be enacted. And I believe that this is an important discussion for us to have going forward.
Sky?
I have 3 or 4 quick comments. The CEO's goals are not approved by the board until September. The only other alternative, since we don't meet in August, is to do that in July. And I don't know if that's certainly a possibility. When I first saw this, I thought it was way complex. And having gone through it once, I understand it a little bit better. I still think it's a little bit too complex. And I was wondering when we're going to have the 6-month evaluation. And I kind of sloughed that off because the current CEO didn't start May 1st, but started the 3rd week in June or something. And I figured, well, that's why we're skipping it. And being a nug, I was pretty quiet my first year and didn't really ask any questions, just trying to figure out how things go. And now I'm a little bit braver in asking questions. And one of the things I was always wondering about, but I did ask, is Dennis was the CEO for 18 months, and yet we never evaluated him, perhaps because he was the acting CEO. So those are all my questions. And whether or not the board comments should be anonymous or not, at first when Mike mentioned it tonight, I thought, oh no, they you know, I don't know, but I think they don't have to be anonymous. And particularly if 2 or 3 of us have the same comment, then it would be good to be anonymous because it's more like a group decision, small group.
Any other, I see Karen, but any other thoughts? Karen?
Yeah, this will be my second comment and then I'll be done. I think it is the board's responsibility to put time on Sean's calendar to talk to him. We should all be regular meetings with him to go in and talk to him about how private conversations, one-on-one, so that he gets a sense of where each of the board members sits. And if people aren't doing that, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but I think that is a board responsibility for each of us to build a relationship with this man. And if we're not doing that, then shame on us.
Reg?
So, all right, so I do agree with you. I also think that, I think September is really late for getting Sean's goals out there to him. I mean, it's not doing him any favors. If you know, my officers and my NCOs that work for me, you know, that's got to be out there quick so that they know what they're being rated on, and so they can understand, hey, you know, these are my goals, this is what I got to work towards. We're telling Sean, hey, you got all this time, and here in September we're coming along, and now, oh yeah, here's your goals. That doesn't give him really a whole lot of time, and then you want 6 months to, you know, talk to him. That gives him very little time before, you know, his report is due. So we need to do him a favor and get these goals going, you know, like you said, a lot quicker, you know, maybe June, July, beginning of July, something, but not wait till September. And, you know, I agree that we need to sit down with Sean individually and have that conversation and tell us, and we got to be honest with ourselves. If we don't like something, we need to tell him, say, hey, you know, I have a problem with this. And Sean he'll tell you, said, okay, well, yeah, let's talk about it, and we'll have that discussion. But we need to have, you know, we need to talk to the man, need to have that conversation, and we need to make sure the goals are out there a lot quicker. That's all I have to say.
Wes?
Yeah, just a couple of points. So I agree we need to be forging relationships and having discussions. I think that no one who ever receives feedback should be surprised by it. And often in those discussions, it can be someone thinks that they're communicating very clearly that they've had some position, and then when it comes time, you actually see a quantitative number, that it is then a surprise when it comes out that way. So I agree that, changing away from anonymity in those responses, you should be able to stand by it. You've had a relationship. You should, not be surprising people with those evaluations and numbers. But I think one of the other things that we could consider in moving towards something which is less prone to maybe miscommunication is having some sort of metrics that we've talked about. I know I've used OKRs before, objectives and key results. Might be something that you might look at for something that could be a more quantitative measure where we agree this is where it stood. And it's not going to be true for all of the goals, objectives, things that you would be responsible for, but something like that that could just get it so that we're clearly on the same page and how we're talking about it and how those things will play out.
Delilah?
I'm wondering about this rubric. Is there a way, are we beholden to it, or is there a way to change it? Like, exceeds expectations, meets expectations, it's very subjective, and we should probably quantify or qualify that with each of the goals. And I don't know if there's some, if we can have an expert come in and make a rubric, that would be a little more consistent.
Other conversation? So what I'm hearing is potential next steps, Sean, is I would suggest perhaps me and Mike are talking with Monica, and we could be able to present something to the board, as Monica being chief of HR and being able to help us with that and bring her expertise in. I don't know if there's any other directives that we could give to staff or ask at this time, but that seems like the most immediate next step. Okay. All right, now we are going to move on to 9D, the ethics policy. I'm going to turn to Ashley since this was your item to add.
No problem. So I'll try to be short and sweet with it. So my thought was that it would be helpful for staff to come back to us with recommendations for amending the ethics policy. I'm going to hit on three main topics for me. So one is accountability. There's not really any incentive for the board members to avoid ethics violations because there's no consequences in place. And so since I think there should be some kind of consequence in place for either frequent or major infractions, I think there should be some kind of differentiation between what those infractions are. We don't specify, not representing the board as one. I won't go into it, sorry. Anyway, figuring out the major or minor. And then the last one, I'm not going to skirt around it and be vague because this has been talked about in public, but Harper's Choice is a fantastic example, right? The prior Harper's Choice representative was removed in a closed meeting for an ethics violation, which came out in public. And in the meantime, he got reelected for the next term to serve because there was nothing to prevent somebody who had been removed for an ethics violation to serve again. And the community has no awareness whenever they're voting in these situations. So I think some sort of awareness for either certain types or frequency of infractions would be beneficial to the community and to the board's behavior.
All right, Karen?
I believe that person was removed illegally. They chose not to pursue it. The people who could have removed him from the board were the village board of Harper's Choice. That is the board's, if you have an ethics violation and there's a finding that you violated something, can the CA board then tell the village board, hey, your board member has an ethics violation? Then it's up to that village board whether or not they want to remove that person based on the seriousness of the ethics violation. But I'm also concerned that we don't start weaponizing the ethics policy against each other because that has happened in the past, and that would be a sorry road to go down.
Sky?
Yeah, talking about bias and conflict of interest, I don't see that happening in the board here for the past several years at all. But, and recusing oneself, I don't think that has been an issue at all either. But I don't know too much about the word censure and the word sanction. Sanction has either a positive or a negative meaning. And I'm wondering, Ashley, if we could use those two in lieu of an ethics finding at some point?
Mike?
So I agree with Ashley. I think, it's been a few years since the current policy was put in place. I think people, John and others probably have a lot of lessons learned from the past few years, and I think it's always good to apply those. But I do want to maybe expand the scope a little bit of what Ashley suggested. And I don't think it's just the ethics policy. I think it's more of a comprehensive look at the ethics policy, the code of conduct, and if changes to the charter might be necessary as well to help really make sure we have our ducks in a row.
Bill?
Yep, just once again, Mike mentioned the code of conduct. I think the ethics policy went through a significant revision not too long ago, but the code of conduct has not been looked at recently, and I think that's a key place to focus and just make sure that it's stated well, and if there are any updates that can be made to that, I would welcome any kind of staff recommendations with respect to the code of conduct.
Rich?
Thank you. So my concern is that, and I forgot who said it, but we have there might be a tendency to weaponize these things, and I can actually see it. I can vision it happening where we're a small group, or not even a small group, a majority may turn around and decide, well, we're going to take revenge on this individual. We're going to make sure we, get him or her off the board because they don't vote the way we vote or don't think the way we vote. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? Does it keep going till you've got rid of everyone who doesn't think the way you do? I think that's wrong. I think that's something that we need to stay away from. But I'm okay with if we sit down and we say, all right, this are the things that we want to do and for these reasons. But I want to make sure that we're doing it for the right reason and that we're not weaponizing it and that we're trying to, take someone's right to speak, because that's very precious to us.
Wes?
Yeah, I actually, I think that it's really important for us to not weaponize things against each other. And I think it starts with assuming noble intent when people are speaking. And I think that some of the things that we've started taking on and, making sure that we're upfront saying what our norms are and that we're going to remind each other that we assume noble intent when we're talking to someone else that's on the board. And anyone, that should just generally be how we operate, from my perspective. I actually think that the gradated definitions for what constitutes a violation and an infraction will actually help prevent some of that violation, some of that egregious behavior, because then you are clear, like, oh, this was our board saying, hey, we needed to behave differently in that instance, and it gives an opportunity for course correction to happen and to come together and have conversations that will fix that. So I think that revising it to serve its purpose, which I think would be very good for the board in all cases.
Yeah. Did you have something, Bill, or did I make something up?
I was thinking about it. I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. Karen?
Yeah, one thing I would like to see, though, we could put in there is that if board members are filing continuous ethics complaints for which there is never a finding, there should be something to hold that person accountable.
Bill?
Just kind of wrapping up, I appreciate Ashley bringing this to the discussion. And I believe in the general, I think that we're all in the right place. We're all in the right place here. We're all in the same place. I don't want to think that we're running off to limiting speech or anything else. That hasn't come up. It's a very general discussion right now. And I want to hold back and not really jump into specifics until we have a further discussion.
Other discussion? Okay, so what I'm hearing is definitely the ethics policy is of interest. I'm hearing it sounds like the code of conduct is probably of interest. I only heard the charter once. Do we have strong feelings about the charter?
The charter is a huge lift. I'm not sure that we want to mess with that.
Yea or nay? Mike?
I think that some of the things that Ashley mentioned specifically would only be possible by amending the charter.
Ashley, I see your hand raised.
Yep. I was going to say this seems like an opportunity, especially with John's initiative of reviewing the policies and getting new things in place for us to look at all of it.
Sean or John, for some reason, I think the charter has like old members in it anyway. Does that sound right?
Correct. The charter was last revised in 2015, and for some reason, the board members at that time are in the charter, so that needs to be updated anyway.
Okay.
No, I think that they're just in there because they wrote it, right? I don't think they're in there because like they're still board members.
It just references like specific people, so they
Right.
really should be part of the charter.
Okay, so I think we can just, at a high level, add the charter for that. So what I'm hearing is asking staff if we can start to look at ethics policy, code of conduct, and then some of those revisions to the charter. Any push thoughts on that? All right, so it's anything, okay.
Clear.
Cool. All right, thank you everyone for that. We're gonna go on to questions only. Sean?
Hi, sorry.
Ashley?
It's me again. So it's not even technically a question, that we just don't have this on the agenda as a space. I want to thank the staff, specifically Eric Walker. So today my company had its volunteer day with Columbia Association, which sadly I did not have the time to go to. But I've seen pictures and it looked phenomenal. So, once again, I want to thank CA for having just this opportunity that's created. It's not something that's available. Most nonprofit organizations in the area have a very hard time accommodating, around 40 different people for a one-time volunteer opportunity. And CA each year not only does a great job accommodating us, but Eric is always super great to work with, very responsive, and educates everybody really well. So it's, a safe environment. They understand the impact that they're having. And I've only heard positive things from today. I wish I could have been. So thank you.
Thanks to Jeremy and his team. They do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, Eric does a great job. I thank you very much, Ashley.
Other comments, questions?
Do you guys want to hang out for another 45 minutes?
I'm good, thanks, Bill. Are there, are there any proposed new topics?
The BOC meets 2 weeks.
Indeed, 2 weeks from today. Okay, so chair remarks. I have several thoughts. I'm not going to monologue for 40 minutes, Bill, don't worry. So first off, thank you all. Thank you for the staff for staying late as always, and just having amazing things to share always. Second thing is thank you to you all for bearing with me during my first meeting. It's been a learning curve. I do want to acknowledge, I recognize that I might have a little bit of a different style. I recognize that sometimes I might be a little heavy-handed. It's not personal at all. It is because I want us to have a good environment. And I think, getting 45 minutes out is, to me, a really good sign. I think that we had really good conversation tonight. I'm really proud of the decorum that we had, and I really hope that we can continue this kind of space, operating that kind of way. But I think that that's, about setting expectations and holding each other accountable, and being able to have really good dialogue like we did. So I appreciate everyone for your efforts tonight, and I'm really looking forward to this year because I think that we can build on this as momentum, and we're gonna have a good time. So yeah, thank you everybody. Have a great rainy weekend. Unfortunately, I saw that Bike Around Columbia was canceled, I think, because of the impending weather. I hope the beer garden's still happening though.
Is the weather supposed to hold out for us?
Okay.
4 o'clock and on, so should be good.
The bike around is postponed.
Postponed, thank you. That's a better way of phrasing it. So, very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ashley, is there any objection?
Go ride sometime.
Okay, at 9:14, we are adjourned.
Good night.